Chris here, and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to share with you my TBR for GreekGodAthon. So this is a month-long readathon, and it is hosted by Esmay. Her channel and the announcement video will be linked in the description below. And this year, we're following the big three gods, so Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, and we have teams. I have chosen to be on Team Hades. Each team has 6 prompts that they have to complete that will earn their team points. They can also earn points for completing the other 6 prompts that are available. Basically, there are 12 prompts, and I'm trying to remember what the theme is. I'm drawing a blank, and I would look it up, but I'm filming on my phone, so I will pop what the theme is up here. And I believe it has something to do with the 12 tasks that somebody whose name I can't remember, pop it up here, took on. And we're reading books that would allow us to complete those tasks that were set for him. It is annoying me that I can't remember the name of the Greek hero that did these tasks, because I've read about them enough. But we're following that, and the 12 prompts are split between the teams. So obviously there's some overlap because there's 12 prompts and 3 teams. And I have picked out a book for each of the prompts so that I can get the points for my own team's prompts and then also get points for the other 6 remaining prompts, because then you can do it over and get extra points for your team. But I only did it once. We'll see what I want to do afterwards and kind of be in flux. But I figured I could at least go through and do all 12 prompts once. So the prompts for my team are to read a book with a hero. And for this, I'm going to read Maya and the Lord of Shadows. This is the 3rd book in the Maya and the Rising Dark series. And she is trying to essentially save the world. And she is definitely the hero of this story. She has been battling against the Lord of Shadows since book 1. And this is going to be the conclusion to the story. And obviously she has to be a hero and defeat the Lord of Shadows once and for all. Otherwise, well, things are really going to suck. So I think that she is definitely the hero of the story. So we will be following her on her hero's journey. I've really enjoyed the 1st book, and I'm looking forward to concluding the series this month. Then we need to read a fast-paced book, and I could think of nothing better than The Vanderbeekers Make a Wish. This is the 4th or 5th book in the series, and I have flew through all of them. This follows the Vanderbeeker siblings, and they always are getting up to something. Something doesn't go right, and they have to try to fix things. And I believe in this one, they are planning a surprise party for their dad's birthday. And unfortunately, he has to go help his best friend. And so the party is canceled, and then their grandparents, who are very distant from them, show up, and some family secrets get involved, and they have to try to figure out how to kind of save their dad's birthday and make something special of it, despite the unexpected roadblocks that have been thrown in their way. Then we need to read a book where water plays a big role, and for this, I'm going to go with Shipwreck and Sail Bay. This is the 3rd book in the Wind Rider series. So this series follows Sophia and Max, and a storm has caused a boat to break and run aground. Greasy oil is leaking into the ocean, and curious harbor seals are in the area along with other wildlife, and Sophia and Max are going to use their magical boat to go there and help these seals. So obviously we'll be dealing a lot with water because of this oil spill. I've really loved this series, and I'm looking forward to checking out book 3. So then, for what I think is one of the hardest prompts I've ever had to come up with something for, we need to read a book with a title that contains an element from the periodic table. And let me tell you, there might be a lot of elements on there, but most of them you're not going to find in a book title. And I searched, and I ended up finding one that really struck my fancy, because I'm massively in the mood for historical fiction, and I will be reading The Women of the Copper Country. So this is set in 1913, and we're going to be following a 25-year-old named Annie, who has seen enough of the world to know it's unfair. She spent her whole life in the copper mining town of Calumet, Michigan, where men risk their lives for meager salaries that barely put food on the table and clothes on their backs. The women labor in the houses of the elite and send their husbands and sons deep underground each day, dreading the call from the company man telling them their loved ones aren't coming home. When Annie decides to stand up for herself and the entire town of Calumet, nearly everyone believes she may have taken on more than she is prepared to handle. On her fierce quest for justice, Annie will discover just how much she is willing to sacrifice for her own independence and the families of Calumet. So this is definitely a book that feels like it is just what I'm in the mood for. So this prompt turned out to be perfect because it reminded me of this book that I had heard about and forgotten about. But it was really, really hard because I was like struggling to find a book that sounded interesting that had an element in the title that I wanted to read this month. So very glad I ended up coming across this one. Then we need to read a book with animals on the cover, and I'm going to read The Untold Stories. So as you can see, there are 3 cats in bubbles on this, and then 2 cats running around. So there's 5 cats on this, so there's definitely animals on the cover. These are 3 novellas in the Warrior series. I keep putting this book on TBRs and they're not getting to it, and it's one of the few Warriors books I have left. So this is definitely the month I'm going to get to this. I promise, because this TBR makes it so I really have no other choice if I want to complete it. So The Untold Stories it is, and I'm very curious to see what happens in these novellas and what the characters get up to. And then the last of my team's prompts is to read a book that features a journey, and I'm going to read Fireborn for this. And this was a gift from Oz. Again, thank you, Oz. If you've been watching my TBR videos, you know just how handy this book has been. And we're following 12, who's a huntling. And she gave up her name and identity to train in the art of fighting monsters, but really just wants to take revenge on those who have murdered her family. Her new home is attacked, and a huntling named Seven is captured after her mentor is killed. So she decides to go rescue Seven, but finds herself joined by 2 rivals and an ancient stone guardian named Dog. So 12 and the others are going to go on a journey to try to find Seven. So there is my journey. This is a book I have wanted to get to for a while. I am very, very excited to be getting to this in March. And once again, Oz, thank you for giving me a book that is working for so many things this month. So there you have it. Those are my 6 books that fulfill my prompts for Team Hades. Now I'm going to go through the other 6 prompts and the books I've picked out for them. These won't get me as many points, but if I want to start over again and redo any of the prompts, I need to read these 6 first, in addition to my team's prompts. So first up, we need to read a book with multiple POVs, and I'm going to read Blood on the Plains. This is the 3rd book in the 2nd arc of 6 in the Braveland series, and in this series, we're following a gorilla, a leopard, and a gazelle, and we get chapters from each of their points of view, so I'm absolutely positive we'll have multiple points of view in this one, and I'm very, very excited to continue on with this series. I actually think this arc only has 3, so this would finish it for me. Then we need to read a cold book, and I'm going to read Brian's Winter. This is the 3rd book in the Hatchet series, and follows Brian and his escapades being stranded in the winter. So obviously it's going to be a very cold setting, and we're going to be dealing with Brian trying to survive the snow and the cold. Then I need to read a book filled with nature, and I'm going to be reading The Venom Spreads, which is book 2 in the Bravelands series. So obviously I will read this and then Blood on the Plains. So I would be getting through books 2 and 3 of this arc, and I recently read book 1, so I'm very excited to kind of be able to read this arc pretty close together so that all of the details stay fresh. And since these animals are living on the plains, there will obviously be lots of nature because they live in nature. Then we need to read a highly anticipated book. And I'm going to be reading The Last Book Wanderer because I can't think of many books that I'm anticipating quite as much as this right now. This is the 6th and final book in the Pages & Co. series, and I am very, very excited to see what Tilly and her friends get up to in this one and how this series concludes. This series follows Tilly, who, among others in her life and world, have the ability to book wander, which means they can travel into books and bring characters out of them. And we've been seeing her adventures along with that of some of her friends. I'm very invested in how this series ends, and I'm going to be sad to let it go, but it is definitely a favorite series, so that always means I can reread it in the future. But first, I have to finish it. Then we need to read a book with fruit or food on the cover. And Esmay said she would prefer if we did fruit if we could. So I'm going to be reading The Ghosts of Misty Hollow. As you can see on the cover, there are apples on the cover, and apples are a fruit. This is the 6th book in the Ghost of Granny Apples mystery series. This is a cozy mystery series that follows Emma, who in the 1st book realizes she has the ability to see and hear ghosts. And one of the ghosts that shows up is the ghost of her Granny Apples. And Granny Apples is like a many times removed grandmother, so like great. And she was basically convicted and put to death for murdering her husband. She didn't do it. And once she realizes Emma can see her, she wants Emma to clear her name. So this has been quite the hoot of dealing with Emma and her ability to see ghosts, including Granny Apples, because Granny Apples is quite the character. So very excited to be reading book 6 in this one, and it is almost to the point where I'm caught up in that one. So that's another really, really awesome stat. And then the last prompt is to read a book you've been putting off. So I'm going to read Crime and Poetry. This is a TBR vet of mine. I think I've had it since before I got back into reading in 2018. So it's a book I have been putting off for ages because I've had it. And I put it off, and I put it off, and I put it off. I might have read it before, but I don't think so. I think it's one that's just been sitting on my shelves and I haven't gotten to. And we're following Violet, who rushes home to be by her ailing grandmother's side, only to find that her grandma Daisy is totally fine and just wanted her to come work at her bookstore, Charming Books. It's where the perfect book tends to fly off the shelf and pick you. Unfortunately, a dead man is then discovered clutching a copy of Emily Dickinson's poems from her grandmother's shop, and her grandmother ends up being in this man's will. So with her grandmother being the number one suspect, she stays in town and begins to investigate along with the help of a tuxedo cat named Emerson. This has a lot of things I love in my cozy mysteries, and I don't know why I've been putting it off, but I think it's about time I stuck it on a TBR. So these are the 6 books I will be reading for the prompts that don't fit my team, and hopefully I can get through all 12 books this month. So there you have it. That is my GreekGodAthon TBR. I'm very excited to be participating. Like I said, I'm mainly going to focus on these 12, and then if I can start the prompts over again, we'll see what I can do with what's left on my TBR at that point. I don't want to put too much pressure on myself, but I figured I could at least pick a book for each prompt to start off with, and if I get to go around again, then we'll see what I have left. Because I have a lot of books on my March TBR, and I'm doing a lot of readathons, so I was trying to balance what I could do for this readathon with what my overall March reading plans are. So I should be able to do some of them again if I get to that point before the end of the month. So with that being said, I think that's everything I needed to mention in this video. Are you participating in GreekGodAthon? If so, let me know what team you are on in the comments section below. Go Team Hades! All of my social media is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me fruit emojis in honor of one of our prompts. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!